Hello and welcome to Inside Iraq. I'm Jassim Azzawi. National reconciliation in Iraq is proving very elusive. In the past 5 years, Iraqi politicians have tried and failed to transcend their differences and move the country forward. Last week, Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki warned of civil war if the current state of paralysis and tension continues. With the US planning to withdraw troops next year, how long can Iraq's politicians continue to squabble?
This is Kirkuk, the oil-rich city in northern Iraq, one of the key obstacles to the country's political reconciliation efforts. Just this week, the United Nations handed the Iraqi government a specially commissioned report aimed at helping pave the way for Kurds and Arabs to resolve their differences. Most of these differences are centered around disputed territories in the north of the country, of which Kirkuk ranks as one of the most contested. Increased ethnic tension between the two communities in recent weeks prompted Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki to raise the spectre of civil war if a solution is not found soon. Gaining control of the oil-rich provinces in the north, with their promise of oil revenue, has led to discord between the Shia, Sunnis and Kurds. But some observers feel that discord has been institutionalized into the very heart of Iraqi politics.
The constitution is a problem itself because it was formulated along sectarian lines meant to divide Iraq. Therefore, the constitution must be amended before any reconciliation efforts can succeed in Iraq.
Al-Maliki's victory in last January's provincial elections raised hopes that Iraq was stabilizing and national reconciliation seemed a real prospect. But since then, an upsurge in violence has rocked the country again. Al-Maliki has been trying to forge new alliances with Sunni political parties to lay the groundwork for political reconciliation and garner support in the run-up to the parliamentary elections due at the end of this year. But some question the intentions behind his efforts.
Al-Maliki is in a very weak position to achieve reconciliation in Iraq. He is being watched by his political opponents. All these reconciliation efforts driven by him are just for his own political benefits.
National reconciliation may prove even harder to implement in a few months' time. Top Pentagon officials have recently raised fears of a likely rise in violence when US troops withdraw from Iraqi cities in June this year. Time is of the essence if the country's politicians and communities are to find a viable way forward to build peace and stability in Iraq.
To examine the prospects of national reconciliation in Iraq, I'm delighted to welcome from Baghdad al-Samarrai, the newly elected Speaker of Iraqi Parliament, and his challenger, Mustafa al-Hiti, from the National Dialogue Front, and from London, a former member of Iraqi Parliament, Saad Jawad Qandil. al-Samarrai, for weeks, if not months, al-Maliki has been telling us that security in Iraq has improved tremendously. The Iraqi train has left the tunnel. We are in broad daylight. And all of a sudden, over the past few days, he's warning us of a civil war. What are we to make of that?
Well, sure, Mr. Prime Minister have good reasons for that. But actually, I mean, we need to know the full story. I mean, we can't now exactly judge what is the main reasons for such statements. But my feeling that whatever the problems is, that there is always a way to solve it. I think al-Maliki, he's a clever person, a hard worker, and he can find a way to solve the problem, and sure, we don't need a civil war anymore.
Definitely nobody wants a civil war, Mustafa al-Hiti, but could it be an election gambit? This is the first movement on his part before the December election?
I doubt that, and I have something to say to Mr. al-Samarrai. He said he is a stronger and clever man. I doubt this. If he was, really, he should solve the problem of the reconciliation before that. And he was fallen in a very big mistake a few weeks ago when he had really start a fight with al-Sahwa, where all these al-Sahwa or awakeness, they were the principle of the security and safety in Iraq. You know that in Al-Anbar governorate, neither the American nor the Iraqi government could solve the problem of the insurgents. And the awakeness, they did it. So opening the fire against the awakeness is the start of the problem where the situation is now in this case. So I think he was not clever in this point to rise it to the people in such a way. And the reason for that, he said, because there was a Ba'athist people inside al-Sahwa. If the Ba'athist in Sahwa, they started the kind of security and safety in Iraq, then I have to get really a good relation with them instead of put them in, as an enemy.
Jawad Qandil, several conferences of national reconciliation were held. As a matter of fact, the first one was done in Cairo in 2004. And after that, al-Maliki himself held several conferences. They all came to nothing. Why is that?
Well, to start with, actually surprised by this statement and what is behind it, particularly when Mr. Prime Minister al-Maliki said on many occasions that we have put the civil war behind us and we are moving forward for the National Reconciliation Program. Regarding these conferences that has happened before, the meetings, perhaps also I think it is too early now to say whether they have succeeded or failed, because we are still in the middle of the process. The process has not finished, and we have to wait for more meetings and perhaps more conferences.
It has been a long time, Saad Qandil, for the Iraqis to wait. 6 years is just way too long.
Excuse me, please.
Go ahead, Mustafa al-Hiti, go ahead.
Please. I mean, regarding the conferences will not solve the problem. We had at least now 3 years for this government. They couldn't do anything. The conferences will not solve the problem because we don't have two principal elements, which is the, what you call it, the concept and the procedure. We don't have a concept of forgiveness. We don't have in Iraq as well the concept of sharing and the need for sharing, and we are not applying really the principle of democracy in Iraq, which we need to share the others. I mean, the majority should protect the minority. This is the concept. And then the procedure, we have to have a plan of action. And before that, we have to have games and all to make a reconciliation with whom? With our political parties, I mean the blocs in the parliament, or with the insurgents, or with whom? With the old Ba'athists. So we have to have a target for us and aims and to put a plan of action. The plan of action and the target is not clear. Nobody knows who is going to be in a reconciliation with the other one.
In that case, Mustafa al-Hiti, given the vagueness of this process, which it needs a roadmap, Ayad al-Samarrai, where would you start? Right now, you and Mustafa al-Hiti, a wonderful example for national reconciliation. You were the winner. You just won the post of the Speaker of the House. Mustafa al-Hiti was your challenger. And here you are discussing the future of Iraq in a wonderful, amicable way. Would you start with amending the constitution? Would you start by extending an olive branch to the Ba'athists? Would you start by including the awakening councils? Where does one start for national reconciliation?
Well, let me say briefly, the reconciliation project was submitted by the Prime Minister. We all, as in the Council of Representatives, we support him. But this program stopped. Now we don't know exactly, when anybody speaks about the reconciliation, what is the meaning for the reconciliation? Who is the target of the reconciliation? I think it is the time that the Prime Minister to come once again and to explain the project and get the support from the Council to this project, and not to leave the members or the political parties not sure about this project, and then everybody will continue criticizing about things they suppose it is not there, or things it's there.
Perhaps that begs the question, Mr. Qandil. Mustafa al-Hiti said Prime Minister is very weak. I mean, perhaps they say the people behind him, you know, much powerful, bigger political blocs are preventing national reconciliation. Would you go as far as that?
I would agree to some extent with what Mustafa al-Hiti said regarding the process of reconciliation. I don't think I have my own critics of the process that is being followed by the Prime Minister. What is the Prime Minister is doing is trying to make reconciliation between the governments and some political groups outside the political process. That is not the right concept for political reconciliation. I think political reconciliation must be between all the parties that is inside involved in the political process with all parties that is outside the political process. And also the national reconciliation must not be partialized in the sense that it is made only on the political level between the political parties or the government. It has got social aspects, and it has to go to the social side, and therefore there must be some social reconciliation between the victims and the perpetrators, so that we have a national unity on the people level as well as on the political level. Only in this way then we could have a proper and successful national reconciliation.
Thank you, Saad Jawad Qandil. We'll take a short break now. When we come back, I'm going to ask Mustafa al-Hiti whether the American withdrawal next year is going to expedite or hinder national reconciliation. Stay with us.
There are those who will try to prevent that future for Iraq, who will insist that Iraq's differences cannot be reconciled without more killing. They represent the forces that destroy nations and lead only to despair, and they will test our will in the months and years to come. Barack Obama, US President.